Deep within the heart of the dense, looming woods, where the trees stood like ancient sentinels and their gnarled roots seemed to clutch at the earth like skeletal fingers, stood an unassuming cabin. It nestled in a small clearing, its weathered wooden walls bearing witness to the passage of time. The cabin exuded an aura of both allure and apprehension, as if it held within its walls the stories of countless souls who had sought refuge within its embrace. Nestled between the towering conifers, their branches creating a natural canopy that filtered the sunlight into dappled patterns on the forest floor, the cabin appeared frozen in a perpetual dance with the shadows. The sunlight, when it managed to pierce through the thick foliage, painted a mosaic of warmth and mystery on the cabin's facade. The air around it felt charged, pregnant with the weight of anticipation, as if the very atmosphere held its breath, waiting to exhale the secrets it held. The cabin had stood there for generations, its history woven into the very fabric of the woods. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, a mixture of reverence and caution in their voices, passing down tales of those who had ventured too close, only to be consumed by the cabin's enigmatic aura. Some claimed to have glimpsed ethereal figures at its windows on moonlit nights, while others swore they had heard faint whispers carried on the wind, as if the spirits of the past were trying to communicate from beyond the veil. Emily and Mark, a young couple whose hearts were entwined in a love that seemed destined to defy any challenge, decided to spend their anniversary weekend at the cabin. The decision was a mixture of excitement and trepidation, an acknowledgement of the stories that had woven themselves into the lore of the place. With each step they took along the overgrown path that led to the cabin, the outside world seemed to fade away, leaving behind the familiar comforts of civilization for the mysteries that awaited them in the heart of the woods. As they approached the cabin, its wooden porch creaked underfoot, a symphony of sound that seemed to echo the whispers of the trees. Emily couldn't help but shiver, a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty coursing through her veins. Mark's eyes, however, sparkled with an adventurer's zeal, a determination to unravel the secrets that had been shrouded in darkness for far too long. The cabin's door, weathered and worn, stood slightly ajar, as if welcoming them into its embrace, beckoning them to step across its threshold and into a world where reality and the supernatural danced in a haunting waltz. Little did Emily and Mark know that their decision to enter the cabin would set into motion a series of events that would test the very limits of their courage and sanity. The unassuming getaway they had sought would soon become a battleground between the forces of the known and the unknown, as the cabin's true nature revealed itself with a malevolence that would leave an indelible mark on their lives. As Emily and Mark settled into the cabin, a sense of tranquility washed over them, like a soothing balm for their weary souls. The crackling fireplace cast a warm, golden glow across the rustic interior, illuminating the carefully crafted details that adorned the walls. The scent of aged wood and faint traces of long-forgotten memories filled the air, inviting them to embrace the solace that the cabin promised. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the first stars began to emerge in the night sky, a subtle shift occurred. The crackling of the fireplace seemed to take on a rhythm of its own, a soft chorus harmonizing with the rustling leaves outside. It was as though the very heartbeat of the cabin had synchronized with the pulse of the surrounding wilderness. In the quiet moments between whispered conversations and stolen glances, Emily began to notice something peculiar. Faint whispers, like elusive echoes, drifted through the air, their words just beyond the edge of comprehension. Mark, ever the skeptic, raised an eyebrow at her mention of it, attributing the phenomenon to the tricks that shadows play on the mind in the depths of the night. Emily, though unsettled, tried to dismiss the whispers as mere figments of her imagination. She wrapped herself in a metaphorical cocoon of logic and reason, seeking refuge from the tendrils of unease that threatened to take hold. Mark, ever the pillar of strength, offered reassurances and gentle chuckles, his presence a comforting anchor in the midst of the inexplicable. As the night deepened, however, the whispers grew bolder, more insistent, as if the cabin itself had decided to divulge its long-held secrets. Emily found herself straining to decipher their meaning, her curiosity battling with a primal instinct that screamed for her to retreat. Mark's skepticism began to waver, replaced by a furrowed brow and a distant gaze, his analytical mind struggling to reconcile the unexplainable with the world he had always known. Emily's sleep was fitful, plagued by dreams that felt like memories that seemed too vivid to be imagined. She woke in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, the echoes of those ethereal whispers still lingering in her mind. Mark's concerned eyes met hers, and in that shared gaze, they acknowledged that something had shifted, something that defied easy explanation. As the first light of dawn painted the world in soft hues of pink and gold, Emily and Mark exchanged glances that held a mixture of wonder and trepidation. The cabin, once a sanctuary from the chaos of their lives, now held within its walls a mystery that tugged at their very souls. The crackling fireplace and the creaking floorboards seemed to hold a secret melody, a haunting refrain that echoed the untold stories of those who had crossed its threshold before. Little did they know that the whispers were only the beginning, a prelude to a symphony of the supernatural that would challenge their perceptions of reality and blur the lines between the tangible and the ethereal. As the days stretched ahead of them, Emily and Mark would come to realize that the true horror lay not in the whispers themselves, but in the answers they sought to uncover, and the darkness that those answers would unveil. The journal, a weathered relic of ages gone by, beckoned to Emily from its place on the shelf, its leather cover worn and its pages yellowed with time. As her fingers brushed against the delicate parchment, a shiver coursed through her, as if the journal itself held the residual energy of its author's anguish. She carefully cradled it in her hands, a tangible link to the past that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. With a sense of reverence, Emily opened the journal to its first page, her eyes tracing the looping script that seemed to dance across the paper. The words told a tale of a soul teetering on the precipice of sanity, a voice that had once been filled with hope and dreams now tainted by the stains of despair. Each entry was a snapshot of a mind unraveling, a slow descent into a darkness that seemed to seep through the very ink of the words. As Emily read, she felt a connection, a kinship with the journal's author. The writer's tormented thoughts resonated with emotions that lay dormant within her own heart, as if the cabin's haunting history had reached out and touched her soul. She found herself drawn deeper into the narrative, unable to tear herself away from the raw emotions that bled from the pages. The tales told of sleepless nights were like a symphony of agony, a cacophony of whispered secrets that danced on the edge of audibility. Emily's heart raced as she imagined the author, huddled in the same cabin that now held her, tormented by spectral visions that defied explanation. The notion of footsteps, disembodied and echoing through the silence, conjured images of a tortured soul haunted by the unseen. Mark, too, became entranced by the journal's grim revelations. His analytical mind, once dismissive of the whispers that had filled the cabin's air, now grappled with the weight of evidence that seemed to validate their experiences. His brow furrowed as he read, his skepticism slowly eroding in the face of the undeniable truth that lay before him. The cabin, once a charming haven, began to shift before their eyes. The decor that had once exuded rustic charm now took on an air of foreboding, the shadows cast by flickering candlelight morphing into shapes that seemed to dance with malevolent intent. The walls themselves felt like silent witnesses, their wooden panels hiding the scars of a history that refused to remain buried. As Emily and Mark delved deeper into the journal, they found themselves slipping further into the cabin's embrace, their own identities merging with the writer's tortured existence. The line between past and present blurred, and the boundaries of reality seemed to bend and warp. The whispers that had once seemed distant now echoed within their minds, a haunting chorus that refused to be ignored. The cabin, it seemed, was a vessel for the pain of the past, a repository for the memories and emotions of those who had sought refuge within its walls. Emily and Mark became conduits for its history, their very presence unlocking a portal to a time long gone. The journal's words became a conduit for the author's anguish, their voices a conduit for the whispers that had long been trapped within the cabin's heart. With each passing moment, Emily and Mark felt their connection to the journal's author grow stronger, their own emotions intertwining with those of a soul that had long since departed. The cabin's haunting history had woven its tendrils around them, pulling them deeper into a web of torment and turmoil. Yet, amid the darkness, a glimmer of determination sparked within their eyes, a resolve to uncover the truth that had been concealed for so long. And so, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the cabin's shadows lengthened, Emily and Mark continued their exploration of the journal, their fingers tracing the words that bridged the gap between the past and the present. The echoes of the writer's pain reverberated through the cabin, a haunting reminder of the bonds that tied them all together, and a stark foreshadowing of the horrors that awaited them in the days to come. With each passing day, Emily and Mark's once idyllic getaway twisted into a nightmare that refused to loosen its grip. The cabin, once a sanctuary of rustic charm, now seemed to pulsate with a malevolent energy, its very walls bearing witness to a history of suffering that had been hidden from the world. The couple's initial sense of solace gave way to a growing unease, a realization that they were not alone within the confines of the cabin. The haunting, once subtle and elusive, escalated into a relentless assault on their senses. Objects that should have remained stationary inexplicably moved, sliding across surfaces and disappearing into the shadows, only to reappear in the most unexpected of places. Emily and Mark exchanged anxious glances as they witnessed these unnatural occurrences, their attempts to rationalize the phenomena crumbling in the face of mounting evidence. Apparitions began to materialize, fleeting and ephemeral, like specters from a forgotten past. Emily caught glimpses of faces in the mirror, their features twisted into expressions of sorrow and despair. Mark's skeptical facade cracked as he stumbled upon footprints that seemed to form out of thin air, leading to nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. The cabin's walls seemed to reverberate with the echoes of anguished cries, as if the very fabric of reality had been torn asunder. One harrowing night, as a storm raged outside, the cabin's malevolence reached its zenith. Emily and Mark found themselves trapped in a nightmarish cycle, reliving fragments of the journal writer's torment. Visions of frantic pacing and whispered pleas filled their minds, their own voices joining in an otherworldly chorus that echoed through the darkness. The line between their own experiences and those of the past blurred until they became indistinguishable, the boundaries of time and space warping around them. Terrifying phantoms materialized before their eyes, each one a manifestation of the writer's anguish. Emily and Mark could only watch in horror as these apparitions reenacted moments of despair and torment, their spectral forms weaving a tapestry of suffering that stretched across the ages. The cabin itself seemed to groan under the weight of its own history, its very foundation trembling with the weight of the emotions that had been trapped within its walls. Emily's grip on reality began to slip, her mind a swirling maelstrom of past and present. Mark, too, felt his sanity teeter on the edge of an abyss, his rationality eroding with each encounter with the supernatural. Yet, amidst the chaos and horror, their love for each other became a lifeline, a tether to the world they had once known. Clinging to each other, they forged a bond that transcended the boundaries of time and space, a beacon of light in the suffocating darkness. It was this love that propelled them forward, that gave them the strength to challenge the malevolent forces that sought to consume them. With a determination born of desperation, they sought a way to break free from the cycle of torment that had ensnared them. Guided by the fragments of the journal's narrative, they embarked on a perilous journey to unravel the truth behind the cabin's haunting. Their path was fraught with danger and uncertainty, every step forward met with a new manifestation of the cabin's malevolence. Yet, Emily and Mark pressed on, their love and determination serving as a shield against the onslaught of horrors. As they delved deeper into the cabin's history, they uncovered long-buried secrets, piecing together a puzzle that spanned generations. And so, Emily and Mark stood on the precipice of revelation, their hearts and minds intertwined in a battle against the darkness that had plagued the cabin for so long. The whispers of the past grew louder, the phantoms more insistent, as they drew closer to the heart of the mystery. The cabin's walls seemed to vibrate with anticipation, as if the very fabric of reality held its breath, waiting to witness the outcome of the struggle between the forces of light and the shadows that had haunted its halls for centuries. As Emily and Mark continued their relentless quest for answers, the weight of their ordeal bore down on them like an oppressive fog, threatening to shroud their minds in a suffocating darkness. Their once vibrant spirits had become haggard and weary, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed within the cabin's walls. The echoes of the past resonated within them, a constant reminder of the tenuous thread that connected their lives to the tortured souls who had come before. Their love, which had once been a source of strength, began to fray under the strain of their ordeal. Arguments and accusations, born of fear and desperation, punctuated their days and nights, each outburst a stark testament to the toll that the cabin's malevolence had taken on their minds. The very foundation of their bond seemed to tremble, threatening to crumble beneath the weight of the supernatural forces that sought to tear them apart. Yet, even in their darkest moments, a glimmer of determination remained. Emily and Mark clung to their shared memories, their love for each other a lifeline that they refused to relinquish. It was their love that fueled their resolve to confront the horrors that surrounded them, to unearth the truth that had been buried beneath layers of fear and secrecy. As they navigated the treacherous landscape of the cabin's history, they found solace in each other's presence, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching shadows. The cabin, sensing their determination, intensified its efforts to break their spirits. The whispers grew louder, their words like daggers that burrowed into their minds, planting seeds of doubt and paranoia. Apparitions became more frequent, their visages contorted into grotesque masks of suffering. Emily and Mark found themselves trapped in a nightmarish dance with the supernatural, their perceptions distorted by a reality that seemed to shift and warp at will. In their pursuit of truth, they uncovered a web of deceit that spanned generations, a tapestry of tragedy woven from the threads of lost souls and unspeakable horrors. The cabin's history was a mosaic of pain and suffering, a reflection of the darkness that resides within the human heart. With each revelation, Emily and Mark felt their grip on sanity slipping, the line between reality and delusion growing increasingly blurred. Desperation drove them to the brink of madness, their minds teetering on the edge of an abyss that threatened to consume them whole. Yet, even as they stared into the abyss, they clung to their love, their bond a lifeline that pulsed with a defiant strength. In the midst of the chaos and horror, they made a choice to face the darkness head-on, to confront the malevolent forces that had plagued the cabin for centuries. Their resolve culminated in a final, climactic confrontation, a battle between the forces of light and shadow that unfolded within the very heart of the cabin. The air crackled with an otherworldly energy as Emily and Mark stood united, their hands intertwined, their love a shield that deflected the onslaught of spectral horrors. The cabin itself seemed to tremble, as if the very fabric of its existence had been thrown into turmoil. In a burst of blinding light, the truth was revealed, a revelation that shattered the illusions that had bound them to the cabin's torment. The echoes of the past, the whispers and apparitions, were the manifestations of souls trapped in a never-ending cycle of anguish. Emily and Mark, through their unwavering love and determination, had the power to break that cycle, to free the trapped spirits and lay the cabin's haunting to rest. With a final surge of strength, Emily and Mark confronted the malevolent presence that had held them captive, their voices raised in a defiant chorus that echoed through the cabin's walls. The darkness recoiled, its grip loosening as the spirits were released from their torment. The cabin, once a vessel of suffering, seemed to sigh in relief, its aura shifting from one of malice to one of peace. As the dawn broke, Emily and Mark emerged from the cabin's embrace, their bodies wearied but their spirits unbroken. The woods, once shrouded in an eerie mist, now seemed to glisten with newfound clarity. The weight of the haunting had lifted, leaving behind a sense of catharsis and closure. Emily and Mark, forever changed by their ordeal, walked hand in hand, their love having triumphed over the horrors that had threatened to consume them. And so, the ghostly cabin stood once more, its walls no longer infused with the agony of the past. It was a place transformed, a sanctuary reclaimed from the clutches of darkness. Emily and Mark's journey had not only saved themselves, but had also granted peace to the souls that had long been trapped within its confines. The whispers of the past had faded, replaced by the gentle rustling of leaves and the sweet melodies of birdsong, a testament to the enduring power of love in the face of the most terrifying of horrors.